Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we just had some huge reveals from the mouth of Anakin Skywalker himself, Hayden Christensen, who at Fan Expo in New Orleans spilled the beans not just about the Ben Solo situation, which I did cover in yesterday's video, but some details you probably didn't know about Revenge of the Sith. And it's gonna make you realise something which I've been saying for years and years: Star Wars fans owe Hayden an apology. If you're a kid when the prequels came out like I was, I think we're off the hook. I was a prequel fan from day one, but those who bashed Hayden, those who still bash his performance, those who say he was an awful Anakin, the acting was terrible in episodes 2 and 3, well, I think it's time to face the facts. Not only did he do the best he could with the script he was given, which is often the narrative you hear, but he went above and beyond. And now Hayden reveals one of the most powerful scenes from Revenge of the Sith was improvised. So during the scene which is titled Padme's Ruminations, Anakin looks out to the Coruscant sky at the Jedi Temple, the place where Mace Windu told him to wait. It's a really emotional cross-cut montage, where it cuts back and forth between Padme and her husband. Anakin is torn inside. He's just revealed to the Jedi that Palpatine is a Sith, but a part of him knows if Mace and the other Jedi kill him, then there's no chance of saving Padme. That's what's going through Anakin's mind. And something which adds an extra dimension to this scene, to the emotion in it, is the tear that rolls down Anakin's cheek. And Hayden just revealed that was improvised. He felt it was right for the tone of the scene, George loved it, and it was kept in. And this, my friends, is just one small example of something I've been saying since I started my channel. Hayden Christensen was perfect as Anakin. He had so many endless conversations with Rick McCallum, with George Lucas, and in preparation for the role, he really tried to get inside the mind of Anakin, on the brink of turning to the dark side. And here's what so many fans forget: Anakin was not supposed to be a smooth hero. He's meant to be broken, uncomfortable, awkward, and intense. You know, this is someone who was raised a slave. He carries so much pain, so much insecurity, something which Yoda identified the minute he was brought to the temple in The Phantom Menace. And Hayden depicts the nuances of that perfectly. Some read it as bad acting, but to me, that's exactly who Anakin is. And if you don't believe me, if you think I'm exaggerating, I urge you to go back and watch Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Either will do, preferably both. And whenever Anakin speaks, whenever he walks, even when he's just standing there in the background, just take note of his body language and the way he speaks, the stilted nature of his delivery. And then in those moments, imagine he's already got Darth Vader's suit on. What you're going to notice, my friends, is the perfect foreshadowing of the way Darth Vader is. His cadence, his inflections, and his movements.
If you are suffering as much as I am, please tell me.
And that duality is the way Hayden played him. He's not fully on the dark side yet. Attack of the Clones gives us the precursor to the darkness, you know, the assault on the Tusken camp, his anger for not being able to prevent his mother's death. Anakin pledged in that very scene he would never let something like this happen again. He promises Padme he's going to become the greatest Jedi ever. In his pain, that's the beginning of his real unhealthy attachment, the very fear that Yoda spoke about. Not to digress too much, but what I'm trying to say is, Hayden was brilliant. You can blame George Lucas all day long for the dialogue and what was in the script, but what Hayden did with it is the best anyone could do. Anakin was not supposed to be the perfect hero, which is why a lot of fans, and I'm not going to get into this today, take issue with the way the character is portrayed in the Clone Wars series. But to this day, my friends, I still see comments, I still see people say, Hayden was a bad actor, he didn't try. Not only did he try his very darn best, he went above and beyond. Go and watch the behind the scenes of the prequel trilogy. He's always discussing certain lines from the script with George. He's always double checking, you know, he's like, is this where Anakin is in this moment? What's going through his head? Should I do it like this? Should I put my arm this way? And the result of all of these, I would say, indispensable conversations is some of the best visual poetry in the saga. Notice the way Anakin stands next to Palpatine. Their silhouettes are a poetic precursor to Vader and the Emperor. But something else which Hayden revealed is some of his favourite scenes were Anakin's darkest. And here's the quote. He says, "Honestly, what I enjoyed the most is getting to make the transition from light to dark. And I guess showing off some of the loss of innocence. There are very specific moments in episodes 2 and 3 where you see the innocence being taken away from him. Then he brings up his mother dying, which we spoke about just a moment ago, and also what's going on in Anakin's head when he goes to Yoda for advice in Revenge of the Sith. And Hayden says whenever Anakin went to the Jedi, their response was, "Tough luck, kid." The core idea with Anakin, and this is from George himself, is to show the failure of Anakin before he ever becomes a villain, how love becomes corrupted. Anakin doesn't know the difference between love and possessiveness. George is setting up the framework for how vulnerable individuals can turn to the dark side. The Jedi was shaping him incorrectly, and something acknowledged by Yoda in the novelization of Episode 3 is that the Jedi were too rigid. Yoda has a moment of regret just before he goes to Dagobah, and we learn something crucial about the relationship between the Jedi and Anakin. They were well-intentioned, but were too strict in their teachings. Yoda blames himself for being too conservative for passing down the old Jedi ways, while not being open to progression and adaptation. And in Anakin's case, we see suppression instead of understanding. They sense his very human fear, but offer doctrine instead of guidance. And the person Yoda was lamenting to in that deleted scene was Qui-Gon Jinn's Force ghost. But Qui-Gon tells the old Grandmaster to not worry himself. What is done is done. But this downfall, this tension originates in Attack of the Clones. And so to dismiss Episode 2, even if you think it's a flawed movie, which it definitely is lunacy. And to say Anakin was poorly performed by Hayden, I just don't personally understand that perspective. And if you know my channel, you know I always try to look for the best in all Star Wars projects, even those I dislike, even The Acolyte, even The Last Jedi. I don't like to discard projects outright. As long as it's made by a human being, I think there's always going to be some lesson in there. Something as small as it might be, to pick from it and say, this is actually worth something in general Star Wars discourse. I'm a glass half full kind of girl, so that's just my approach. But yes, anytime Hayden reveals new insights into the prequel trilogy, I'm here for it. Yet another reveal from this interview, my friends, is he accidentally injured Ian McDiarmid on set. While filming the scene aboard the Invisible Hand, in which Anakin breaks Palpatine free of his constraints, Hayden accidentally injured Ian, and he said this: "I just got a little too close to him. I ended up cutting him right in the forehead, right between the eyes." Oof, that sounds bad. And finally, my friends, Hayden says he knows about and loves prequel memes. Another reason I think he deserves an apology is because he really was put through it by the media, by some fans back in the day, and still, he came back. He's returned to Star Wars, he's positive, he loves the franchise, loves the fandom, he's in Obi-Wan, he might have been in the hunt for Ben Solo, and he's back in Ahsoka and Ahsoka Season 2. Great stuff, my friends. Share your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. What is your favourite Hayden Christensen as Anakin moment? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.